Eric. The problem with Tyler Perry is that he doesn't write for us. His reactions to recent criticism says far more about him than his audience, and if you look closely, you'll see that his true audience isn't the average black person, contrary to what he complains about. Now, the more research I do, the more scandalous information I find, so I'll be splitting this video into two parts. In this video, I'll be focusing on the Tyler Perry universe, primarily his plays and films, because the TV shows thankfully had writers' rooms. In my follow-up video, I'll be going into Tyler Perry the person, so make sure you're subscribed so you can catch part 2 when it comes out next week. Today, I'll be focusing on 2 of Perry's early plays and skipping ahead to his most recent films. There's really no reason to make a pit stop in the middle. All his films have the same formula, and that's part of the problem. Now, if you were in a black neighborhood in between 2001 and 2005, there was no way you didn't hear or see an advertisement for showings of a Tyler Perry play in your area. Diary of a Mad Black Woman was the first Tyler Perry play that I saw, and even at 12 years old, I understood the hype. There was something there. Within the play structure, at least, is where the real Tyler Perry magic happens, and within those confines, Tyler Perry is a bad motherfucker. I'm saying if you felt the reverberations that came through the hood when this play was in town, or even better, the bootleg man had some copies for sale, you'd understand. Every auntie, most of the uncles, and half the cousins were watching these plays. You just couldn't get away from the conversations. They're sorrowful and uplifting, tragic and hilarious, plus they always mix in some faith and good old church energy, and ain't no church like black church. The way Tyler Perry juxtaposed faith with secular problems of his cast was his key selling point.
What are we doing, Charles?
Helen, what are you talking about now?
I feel like I'm losing you.
I don't have time for this, okay?
Honey, is it somebody else? If it is, please, let's just talk about it.
And as we transition to the next scene, the character of her husband's father, also played by Tyler Perry, is sitting around, passing around some green medicine and just cracking jokes with the other old heads.
Play a card with it, play a card.
Hold on, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it must be.
Is that what I think it is?
I'm going down, down, baby, yo street in a rain, street sweeper, baby, now, ready, go, chibby, chibby, go, bub, let's do it now, light it up and take a puff, pass it to me now. Go on, play.
Now, I'm not sure how much of this I'll get to show. YouTube be tripping sometimes, but I want you to feel the warmth of the set. I want you to watch how the characters move around each other. They feel like a family, and the dialogue, while still to that time, still feels like it's coming out of real people. Now I want you to consider this scene from a Diary of a Mad Black Woman film.
What?
There's no easy way to say this, but our marriage has run its course. It's over.
What? What are you trying to say?
I'm saying it's over.
Charles!
Helen, don't act so surprised. I mean, I haven't touched you in a year. I haven't been happy for years.
18 years and you think you can just come in here and end it like this?
Why does it feel like we're getting an inferior product? Our main character comes across far more passive when compared to the stage play version. There isn't much joy or levity, and her husband is the most trifling nigga on the planet, which is a pattern you'll notice in Tyler Perry antagonists, but I'll get to that in a moment. The Diary of a Mad Black Woman film was an early Tyler Perry production on his journey into cinema, and his first time branching out to a more diverse audience. As with many black stories pushed to a broader audience, there is focus on tragedy that's voyeuristic, if that makes any sense. Like, it reinforces certain stereotypes in a way that you almost lose empathy for the characters and the story. Not because they're poorly written, I mean, that's definitely part of the problem, but it's more about how they are portrayed. As with the antagonist I'll be getting into in a minute, near every person in the Tyler Perry movie is a caricature, this bold exaggeration of a person and whatever characteristics they're supposed to have. Wife whose husband is having an affair. In the play, she's written as a woman who sincerely believes in her marriage, that things will prevail and God will come through in the end. In the film, she's a person with a broken spirit, like she's just going along with emotions. You might know a couple like that, just trying to run out the clock, and outside of infidelity or physical abuse, sometimes in spite of it, they stick around. It's only after aforementioned abuse, infidelity, and embarrassment does our protagonist fight back, and this level of cinematic suffering has gained a lot of criticism in recent years. The complaint breaking down to how often black stories are told through the lens of heartbreak and tragedy. Princess Weeks does an excellent analysis of this phenomenon in her Lovecraft Country video, and I'll add a link in somewhere around here. But here lies the issue with many Tyler Perry films, and as I mentioned earlier, Tyler Perry is writing for a broader audience. And in doing so, he's leaning heavily into the trauma and violence tropes. That's the real difference between a Tyler Perry play and a Tyler Perry film. On stage, it's more like an operatic comedy. There's a little tragedy to keep the stakes high and your audience engaged, but the songs don't wear so much of the magic lay. Say what you will about Tyler Perry the man, but as a casting director, he was great at picking talent that could really sing as well provide a passing stage performance. The next one was actually my favorite Tyler Perry play when I was a kid. There was more secular family love vibe than first play, the comedy was amped up to 11, and once again, the singing was really what put it all together. But well, there's this one scene. Two of our leads, sisters named Vanessa and Lisa, are speaking with their mother in subdued tones, having one of those heavy talks. You know the talks. And during this conversation, it's revealed that the sisters were interfered with as children by their father, this being the first time their mother hears of it. She responds the way you would assume she would before the scene ends, and the resolution is left up to the imagination of the audience. Now, here's the same story from the family reunion film of the same name as the play. Here, the mother, Victoria, played by Lynn Whitfield, not only knew, but she allowed it.
It's not true.
Yes, it is true. And you're gonna tell her. You're gonna tell her.
He asked me for you. I had done everything I could in our family, everything I could to please him. You should be happy. You were able to save our family.
Are you insane?
No, I'm a realist.
This is the curse of Tyler Perry in full form. I honestly couldn't finish the movie. I mean, the heartbreak and indifference was just a little too much for me to handle. I got up and walked out the theater. Black Woman in Pain becomes a core staple in Tyler Perry productions, and, well, let me rephrase that, because it's always been a staple. But this is him showing raw pain, and, well, this is when I lost interest. Pretty much since Tyler Perry dropped his first film, he's felt there is a struggle to connect with white audiences, and this white gaze is what he focuses on when developing scripts. In essence, the white gaze is when a person of color feels the urge or basic reality of adjusting our work to account for a white person being a core part of our primary audience. That's just how capitalism works. You want to make it as a creator or any other workforce, you can't go around scaring white folk. And I'm glossing over the subject because it deserves more time than I can spend on it right now. Just try to understand, it's exhausting having to mediate between your true artistic self and what will provide you work and most exposure. In some cases, it's a matter of watering yourself down like ethnic food in a gentrified neighborhood. In other cases, it's dialing up the stereotypes to 11.
These go to 11.
In other cases, it's dialing up the stereotypes to 11 at the detriment of your own basic humanity. In a Refinery 21 article titled, "Yes, Tyler Perry is Still Obsessed with the Unstable Black Woman," journalist Cecily Bowen claims that Perry is obsessed with painting black women as bitter and always unsuccessful or even in abusive relationships, and yeah, well, he does that a lot. Bowen goes on to state, most of his central female characters are suffering from some emotional instability that can only be helped with the love of a good man or Jesus. From For the Colored Girls to I Can Do Bad All by Myself, internalized trauma redirected at the outside world by a black woman has been Perry's forte. The early Tyler Perry formula consisted of a few core components. A black woman in bad circumstances, a man stepping out of left field to sweep our female protagonist off her feet, and Madeah, the 6'5" matriarch and mammy of most of Perry's plays and films released for almost 15 years, and I'm so glad that that character is retired. Now, I'm not going to lie, the jokes about the ghetto granny who kept that thing tucked in her purse was my favorite part of those plays. And Madeah was ruthless with the honesty, but was always compassionate when it counted, especially when she didn't want to, and that was commendable. But that's pretty much the only good thing I can say about Madeah. The truth is, Madeah is and kind of always has been offensive, and yes, most of us enjoyed the character the first time we saw Madeah. But we can also acknowledge that in hindsight, it's hella tacky, and we see less of black men dressed as loud black women for a reason. It's not that funny. The only joke used in these circumstances is look how loud, or crass, or ugly this black man masquerading as a black woman is. Oh, and the stereotypes. This one isn't Tyler Perry, but I had to share it.
You think you so tough because you tall? I ain't afraid of you. I'll kick you so hard in your balls that it'll replace your tonsils.
What the hell is going on, Marlon? Bro, this came out in 2019. Don't nobody go and watch that garbage either. Save yourself a headache. But back to our current headache. The Tyler Perry formula has evolved. Well, not evolved. It's still bad, but it's moved away from Madeah. Yo, he's still making Madeah movies? What in the hell? For what, Tyler? Boy, is you stupid or is you dumb? If you don't get your mammy to the rescue, shucking, jiving ass up out of here, boy, let me chill. I'll be getting into Tyler Perry as a person and his many accusations of, well, you're just going to have to wait until next week. But when it comes to his filmography, well, I've heard of Tubi being referred to as the new blaxploitation, but if that's the case, what is Perry Studios? When you break down the structure of Ratchet Tubi movie, damn, do people even say Ratchet even more?
Christ, I'm old.
Yeah, me too, Mike. Anyway, that's what Tyler Perry makes. It's Tubi with a bigger budget, and I'm not a. What did he say we were?
So you've got this highbrow Negro who is all up in the air with his nose up looking at everything. And then you got people like where I come from and me who are.
Yeah, highbrow Negro. He called his critics highbrow Negroes, coming from the billionaire with connections to Oprah. Man, if you don't get your doofy ass up out of here. Anyway, I'm not being highbrow. I like garbage Tubi movies, and I don't think every black person on TV or film needs to be cast in a good light all the time. But a Tyler Perry movie is tired in execution with the means to put out a better product, and that's what makes them so bad. Mea Culpa, starring Kelly Rowland and Homie from Moonlight and a bad Steve Harvey toupee, is your standard Tyler Perry film not featuring Madeah, and there's not a whole lot of intrigue, not a whole lot of character development, and wall-to-wall exposition. And the actors are doing the best they can with the material they're given, but if you polish a turd, it's still a turd. Kelly Rowland is forced to play the smartest dumb person in history, constantly putting herself and her career in jeopardy for a man that's being accused of a homicide. Her husband is having an affair, then becomes a drug addict bum, and later we find out that he's working with his mama to finesse Kelly's character. Something worth noting is Tyler Perry does most of his own writing, and I'm specifically pointing out films that he's listed as a writer on. So the formula that pops up of a black woman in a risky situation, plus light-skinned black man, plus dark-skinned black man playing opposing roles, minus any common sense, is no one's fault but his. I was reading an article on white fragility and the white gaze that highlights intersections between structural racist and misogynist violence and sexual intimacy. And what's fascinating is while the content of the article is related to two films that provide insight on brief, unusual depictions of interactions and relations between white European women and black African men, there's a lot of comparison that can be found in Tyler Perry films. The films relate the white gaze to gendered examples of interracial engagement and how whiteness is often used as a stand-in for purity and chastity within confines of interracial relationships with a white woman and a black man in the cases in the films reference. But you literally only need to swap out white woman for black woman and you'll come across some surprising similarities with Tyler Perry films. White women in the films we discuss here are the primary emotional focus. Their precarious relationships to intimacy, often shown as resulting from internalized sexism, stress, or both, turn the focus to white women as emotional victims of capitalist modernity, thus whitewashing the dynamics of colonialist exploitation. The black, mostly male characters in these films thus become tools to expose and perpetuate white fragility. Reading for precarious intimacy here, therefore, does not open any spaces for community, solidarity, and connection outside of racialized gaze, and the contrary is exposed gender dynamic of racism. Now you're probably thinking, I don't know, Charlie, it feels like a bit of a reach. Okay, I'll swap out white woman with black woman in the first part of the previous quote. Black women in the films we discuss here are the primary emotional focus. Their precarious relationships to intimacy, often shown as resulting from internalized sexism, stress, or both, turn the focus to black women as emotional victims of capitalist modernity, thus whitewashing the dynamics of colonial exploitation. Now compare that to Kelly Rowland and Mea Culpa. Precarious relationship with intimacy and emotional victim of capitalism, falling for a client she's supposed to be defending for a homicide and supporting a deadbeat husband, all undermining the cultural and socioeconomic underpinnings that create a gendered racialized standard for black women. I bring these films up because even though Tyler Perry brands himself as a teller of black stories, he's more of a seller of black anguish and a profiteer of pain. His latest showing, Divorcing a Black, is where we find ourselves now. And Tyler Perry is as sick of the criticism as we are sick of seeing him in that dress. Divorcing a Black is another cliche drama about a black woman dealing with a husband that is just relentlessly evil. So Megan Good's Ava wants to divorce her abusive husband Dallas, and if you've seen a Lifestyle movie, you can extrapolate from there. He of course stalks her, and she spends half the film trying to get away from one man, and the other half almost... Wait, hold up. What's with these stiff wigs and these hairlines? Can we get a bundle and a lineup on set, please? Looking like they about to shoot a period piece taking place in 1978. Who gave mans these jive turkey sideburns? Anyway, Ava is trying to get a divorce from Disco Sideburns, and through all of it, she finds faith in God and a new man. No woman in the Tyler Perry series succeeds by herself. It's usually by a combination of it's it's usually a combination of God. It's usually a combination of God, a masculine presence in Christianity, and a new good man that saves our protagonist from a previous life. And that's the same dry, tired blueprint of pretty much his entire catalog. The complaints come from the oversimplification of abuse and how cartoonishly evil his antagonist can be. And the fact that regardless of the business success or the intellect, style, or class he dresses his female characters in, Tyler Perry still kind of sucks at writing black women. But for as trite and underwhelming as Tyler Perry films can be, not all the criticism is bad. Perry does provide work and fair wages to black actors that are often overlooked in casting, and for the religious, he's brought Christianity in movies to the mainstream. The gospel playwright turned screenwriter and film television producer has made films and sitcoms catering to working and middle-class black Christian audiences and mainstream commodities. Second, he has given black women unprecedented opportunities to have leading roles in his films, which is a very valid point, especially for older black women who become invisible in the Hollywood system. But that's also what Perry and his sycophants hide behind. But we can want these people to have jobs, we can want more representation in film and behind the camera. But we can also want good writing and representation that doesn't resort to stereotypes and proper hairstyling on set. And next week in part 2, Tyler Perry is going to have some explaining to do.